GoVeganRadio.com, on Twitter at Go Vegan Radio, on Facebook, Go Vegan Radio with Bob Linden. Every week at this time, we either experience technical difficulty or we have commentary with Professor Gary Francione, and usually with Professor Anna Charlton also, both of Rutgers University and their wonderful website, howdoigovegan.com. And so, how are we today, Gary and Anna?
We are fine, Bob, and how are you?
Doing just great. It's like summer has arrived, so it's actually feeling kind of globally warm at the moment. So
it arrived
feels
here
good.
On the East Coast this weekend, so.
You said it was across. It was across.
Oh no, we got spring this weekend on the East Coast too, Bob. So.
Well, it's nice to know that the climate is still, moderate enough to support us. Hopefully, we'll all go vegan soon and make sure it stays that way. So I was watching everything about the big climate march, and oddly enough, not a peep about going vegan, even though the top climate specialists tell us that animal agriculture is the #1 cause of climate change, and going vegan is the only solution. It seems like the environmental groups don't really care about saving the planet after all. So, but then again, it seems like the animal groups don't really care about saving the animals after all either. So, what's new?
Nothing much. Happy May Day. And today's May Day, Bob, the day that we celebrate labor, and happy May Day. We wanted to
still has a job, I suppose. If anybody still has a job, I guess they would want to take it off. It's amazing how people love to take they're very concerned about their jobs, and yet they love to take those holidays off to celebrate their jobs. So.
Well, we wanted to talk tonight about a disturbing thing that we learned this weekend. Hampton Creek, which is a vegan, or purports to be a company that makes only plant-based products, is apparently no longer a plant-based products company, but is indeed now selling something called Just Cookies White Chocolate Macadamia Nut. And, Hampton Creek is very concerned about eggs and the abuse of chickens. And so they have gotten eggs, they make foods that don't have any eggs, but apparently cows don't count as much. And I'm looking at the ingredients, and we've got whole milk powder, non-fat dry milk, milk fat. They've also got sugar. I don't know whether it's bone charred sugar or not. It doesn't say. It's not organic sugar, at least not according to the ingredients. And what was really interesting was, I guess we weren't the only people who were unhappy about this, and people have been criticizing the company for it. And there was a statement that was made by Josh Tetrick, who is the co-founder of the company, and he put out I don't know exactly where this was from, although several people posted it on my website. I guess it was probably it looks like it was on the Hampton Creek Facebook page, although I can't tell. And but there's a statement that several people posted on my page that purports to be from Josh Tetrick, and he says a couple of things that are really troubling to me. One is this idea that, as long as we're reducing suffering, then that's okay. And this is the Peter Singer approach to animal ethics. As long as you're reducing suffering, carry on. And so Tetrick says, well, we got the eggs out, but we haven't got the dairy out. We're working on that. But, we're trying to maximize good, including, this is a statement he makes, every decision here is based on this fundamental principle. What will increase the probability of maximizing good, including alleviating suffering for the longest period of time? I mean, I'm not sure I understand that, but it's this idea, that as long as people are reducing suffering, that's all that matters. That it's not really a matter of justice. It's not a matter of moral obligations to animals not to exploit them at all. It's a matter of reducing suffering. So if you've got cookies that would normally have eggs and dairy, and you take out the eggs, well, you're alleviating suffering. And, you work on the dairy, but go ahead and sell those cookies and make that profit. And, this idea, this sort of utilitarian capitalism sort of, applied to the animal ethics issue, it's really troubling. And then he also says, and this is somewhat bizarre, he said, we worked with the nation's largest food service company to eliminate their use of animal products in virtually all cookies, mayos, and dressings at thousands of K through 12 schools, hundreds of universities, as well as hospitals and corporate cafeterias by using our product. It's an unprecedented step for animals. The food service company previously offered a macadamia nut cookie with eggs and white dairy-based chips. And, and then he goes on to say, we took out the eggs, but we still got the white dairy chips. And when I read that, I mean, I just assumed that what he was saying was what he was saying, which is that these are not Hampton Creek cookies. These are cookies that they were working with this food service company to make these cookies. And it almost seemed as though it was the food service company that was making the cookies, and they were just sort of, I don't know. I mean, I can't, how do you interpret that? He says, we work with the nation's large.
He's supplying cookies to be distributed by the food service.
Well, but he says, okay, so Anna says he's supplying cookies to be, okay, well, but when I went to the website, I went to, the cookie appears under the food service section of the Hampton Creek Just Cookies website. So, I mean, I don't know how to interpret that. I mean, I don't know how to interpret that except that they're making them and selling them not to the public, but to the food service company. But what difference does it make? I mean, if they're selling them to the food service company or they're selling them directly to the public, they're making non-dairy, non-vegan cookies that they're selling to somebody. It doesn't matter whether they're selling it to a big customer or to a little customer. They're selling these things, and it's not that there's some. It's not that it's the activity of the food service company. It's the activity of Hampton Creek, but it's just really sort of interesting to me that this idea that as long as you're reducing suffering, I mean, this is Peter Singer's idea. This is why we have this reducitarian nonsense. This is why we have meatless Mondays nonsense. It's this idea of reducing suffering. It's absolutely wrong. And what it's doing is allowing everybody who wants to profit from exploiting animals to go ahead and do it and just say, well, we're doing it in a better way than it might otherwise have been done.
What a great interpretation to say, oh, look, this cookie used to be made with egg and dairy. Now we only make it with dairy, so we're the good guys. We're saving animals. I mean, that's pretty amazing, actually.
But, we see elements of the same sort of thinking throughout the community of people who are interested in the animal question and are considering a change in diet. And if it is only a dietary question, that's where the problems usually arise. If it isn't sort of a more comprehensive ethical framework that they're functioning in. But we've all heard too many times, I've given up this, that, and the other. It's always given up something. but I just haven't found a good cheese substitute, so I'm still having my cheese pizza. So this is a very strange consumerist way to approach an ethical problem.
Well, look at who Josh Tetrick's partner is. The other co-founder is Josh Balk of the Humane Society of the United States. So, so he's off selling cage-free eggs in the corporate world, at his day job, and saving the eggs from his cookies or something. So.
It's bizarre. It's so incredibly bizarre that you have this. What's really interesting to me is Singer really articulated a paradigm that was really a great business model for these. He really did. He articulated a way of approaching animal ethics that basically allows anybody who wants to make a buck off of animal exploitation to do so. All they have to do is just make some argument that the harm that they're causing is, it could be worse. They could be doing worse. So if you want to sell, if you want to sell something that's got, eggs and milk, well, reduce the eggs by 10%. And you're reducing suffering, and you're taking a step in the right direction, and you're not going to change the world overnight, and we have to do it incrementally through baby steps. So go ahead and sell those cookies and make your money. But it really, in a sense, when I wrote Rain Without Thunder in '96, I made the argument that if what you do, if you base your campaigns, or if you base the approach to animal ethics on reducing suffering, well, then you can have an endless number of fundraising campaigns, because you could reduce suffering by 0.1%, and then another 0.1%, and another, and if it's simply reducing suffering, well, then you ought to support all those campaigns. Nobody should criticize any of those campaigns. Everybody ought to support those campaigns, because they're all incremental steps, and that you would have an infinite number of suffering reduction campaigns, all of which would have to be supported by animal people if the organizing or if the moral principle is reduction of suffering. And
well, then no cage is too small, because it can always be smaller, right? So every cage. That's right. So you could, and look, Bob, that's exactly what you've got with we've gone now from battery cages, although they still, obviously the conventional battery cage is still quite ubiquitous, but the cage that the animal people are supporting now is the enriched cage. But look, is it bad? Yeah, it's bad. Does it significantly improve the welfare of the hens? No, it doesn't do anything to significantly improve their welfare. But we're going to support it anyway, because it's a reduction in suffering. And we've got to take baby steps, and we're not going to change the world overnight. Really, there ought to be a chamber of commerce for the animal movement. And somebody ought to give Singer an award for what he's done, because what he's done is he's created a platform which has been a tremendous business model for the animal people. So basically, they can generate an endless number of campaigns based on the idea of reducing suffering, an endless number of them. Yeah. And the reduction of suffering is actually only in our heads, because the animals are still 100% completely miserable. So the suffering goes on in our heads, Well,
it's a bizarre. It really is just bizarre. And particularly since a lot of this suffering reduction is illusory. Even if it were implemented, it would still be a very minor reduction in suffering at best. But in a lot of cases, these things are phased in over a period of many years. So it's not even any sort of immediate reduction of suffering. And you're right to say that the chickens in the enriched cages are suffering. It's horrible. And the
They
welfare
said, wow, could have been worse. Thank you,
it could
HSUS
have
and
been
for
worse.
Animals, and
Right.
all
Right.
you groups who change. I mean, those same groups who support them used to say they were unacceptable in terms of the welfare for birds, physiology and psychology, and until they changed their minds to support them. And I don't know what happened overnight, with the enriched.
Well, what
cages.
happened was they thought they were going to be able to get cage-free eggs as a standard. They were promoting cage-free eggs as the standard they wanted. The industry basically said, no, we're not going to do that. We'll go along with you on enriched cages. And if you don't like it, tough. And the animal people turned around and said, okay, we'll take that deal. Because it gave them a victory to go and fundraise off of. But, but as I said, I mean, really, Singer's theory is brilliant in that it allows these animal groups to have an endless number of worthless campaigns that they can fundraise off of. I mean, it's an endless supply of money. It's an endless supply.
Mm-hmm.
And so, every day I get emails soliciting funds from various groups, and they promote the most idiotic things. They're still talking. I mean, I got one today from some group in Canada that's talking about going up and seeing the baby seals and the problems of the cull of the baby seal. Well, you know what? That's been going on forever. Animal advocates have been raising money off of that forever. There is no difference between a baby seal and any other animal, including sheep, who are exploited for clothing purposes. And the baby seals are cute. That's all. They got those little black eyes, and they are very appealing. And but it's like the endless numbers. You get you get these fundraisers that are proposing such idiotic campaigns that will do nothing for animals. But they've got they've got sort of a spin of, well, it'll reduce some suffering, so people send their money in. It's a brilliant but fundamentally wrong and corrupt business model.
Send your money.
This is where we are.
Could be worse. I love it. I love the marketing. Send your money. Could be worse. So.
Well, we've got a situation now where Hampton Creek is selling cookies with dairy. I don't know who they're selling them to. I guess they're selling them to this food service company, but who cares who they're selling them to? They're making money selling cookies, and their answer is, well, we got the eggs out, but it's not a perfect world, and we're working on getting the dairy out, but we're going to make money in the meantime. And it is just so fundamentally wrong. And it really is. It's just fundamentally wrong. Now, fundamentally wrong from a rights perspective. Is it fundamentally wrong from Singer's perspective? I guess not, since Singer supports most of this stuff. Singer was a big fan of Whole Foods and John Mackey, and praised John Mackey for the happy exploitation standards, and Singer got all of the animal groups, all of the big animal groups in the United States, got Viva USA. The British group had a branch here. They signed on, and he got them all to praise John Mackey's, including PETA. He got PETA he got PETA signed on to that love letter, that public love letter to John Mackey, explaining what saying that they were that they expressed their appreciation and support for the the animal welfare standards that Whole Foods and Mackey were developing. And it's appalling, but that's what we have.
What do we expect from a corporation who has one of the top HSUS executives as one of its partners. Josh Balk, the guy who traded jobs with Paul Shapiro and now is whatever farm animal protection, who's big cage-free egg salesman for HSUS. I mean, so he's been at Hampton Creek forever. So I've never bought Just Mayo. I'm very happy with Veganaise and Follow Your Heart, which is a 100% vegan company. And then, there was that little ethical thing written in the past about Hampton Creek, not to, bring up, well, it's not gossip. I mean, it was admitted that Josh Tetrick, that's his name, right? Josh Tetrick? Is it Tetrick?
Yeah.
So he changed employment agreements, contracts after they had been signed. He secretly went back and changed different aspects of employment agreements, I think related to severance, things along those lines, and admitted to doing it. He changed signed contracts without the employees knowing. So I don't know. I guess something like that makes me not trust the ingredients in a product. Don't ask me why,
Well, I hadn't heard that story, and I don't know anything about it, and I wouldn't obviously need to know more before I commented on that. But for what we're discussing today, I think it certainly emphasizes what we talk about every week, and you talk about, Bob, is that we need some clarity on this issue. So good, simple, one-on-one vegan education is very, very much needed in this sort of atmosphere where sort of standards of what we expect from companies and honesty in terms of dealing with consumers and the clarity of the consumer demands needs an underpinning that mirrors the ethics of veganism. So while corporations are always going to be letting us down, we need to be holding the line on a clear and abolitionist message on this subject.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I will not buy. I hadn't heard that story that you just referred to either, but I can tell you, I won't buy anything from Hampton Creek anymore. I mean, I don't. I mean, I thought Tetrick's explanation was disappointing, to say the least. And I just will have nothing to do with promoting or supporting that company. And you're right, it is odd that Josh Balk, who was busy, I believe Balk was the guy who was going around trying to get all the universities to commit to and companies to commit to cage-free eggs. And at the same time, his day job is to persuade people to eat cage-free eggs, and then he's got an investment in a company, or he's involved with a company that supposedly is not using any eggs, and indeed promotes itself as plant-based. Now is using dairy. So I guess that really shouldn't surprise us. But I mean, it's also bizarre. And you know what? It's all just about business. It's people making a living off of the backs of these poor animals who are just endlessly, ruthlessly, hideously exploited. And they're just making money off of it. And it really is just appalling. It really is just appalling. And, and if you criticize it, people get upset and they say, well, I had people coming on the page yesterday saying, but they're doing the best they can. The answer is no. If you don't, first of all, I don't understand why they can't make vegan cookies. I mean, vegan cookies are easy to make. There are several brands, and there's one that comes to mind. I don't even have them in the house because we will eat them. We'll kill a bag immediately of those exactly.
You make a macadamia nut cookie until you find whatever non-dairy white chocolate you'd like to add to the recipe.
Exactly. So I mean,
but we keep using dairy until we found something that fits.
I mean, so there are vegan cookies out there. It's not that difficult to make vegan cookies. So look, if you can't make this cookie vegan, you don't make it. You don't sell it and say, well, this is the only way we can do it, which is another way of saying the only way we can exploit animals and make money is to do it, is to have animal ingredients in. And, we'll try to get it out, but, in the meantime, we've got to make profit. And I mean, that is so fundamentally
trying
wrong.
To get it out is, it's pretty absurd right there, right? So,
I mean, exactly. And, I saw something else this week. I have to track it down. And so I don't want to be specific, but it was something that was posted that I saw, and I want to call the source to confirm that in fact it's not a Photoshop thing, but it purported to be a coupon that was included in the adoption package from a shelter. You know how when you adopt an animal, a lot of these places will give you an adoption package, and the adoption package has got, information. It's got some coupons for food, and it's got, sorts of stuff that you get from a shelter when you adopt an animal. And somebody posted something saying that they had adopted a cat from this particular place. And they took a picture of what purports to be a coupon they got in their package saying, thank you for saving a life, and giving them some discount or whatever on some animal, I believe some McDonald's product. And when I first saw it, I thought, that's why I want to check it. I want to make sure it's not a joke, because it seems so profoundly messed up. Thank you for saving a life. Here's a coupon for you to go and kill other lives. And now, I mean, it's not beyond the realm of thinking, because, I mean, it always amazes me whenever I walk into a pet food store that this is a store where people who love their animals come to buy food, and they're buying, venison and carrots and rabbit. Rabbits are for many.
It's a like a horror movie walking through the aisles of a pet store. Considering
rabbits and lambs and cows and ducks and all this, and venison and all this stuff, and it is sort of bizarre that that we are that we are terribly confused in our thinking about animals, and so it wouldn't, this coupon that was pictured in this post that I saw, it's conceived. I mean, I'm not going to be really surprised.
Is the dog and cat rescue world anyway, right? I mean, that's
it's not. It's not, but it is. I think what brought it home was the sort of the irony of giving somebody a coupon that says, "Thank you for saving a life," and then giving you and it's written, that's written on the coupon. Thank you for saving a life, and it's bizarre. I mean, it really is just bizarre to think that here it is. Oh yes, okay, here it is. It says, thank you for saving a life. Free 10-piece chicken McNugget with any purchase. Now, I mean, I find that really bizarre. But as I say, people go to the store.
It's just not a chicken life. We're thankful for you
right.
saving.
Well, exactly. It's like, thank you for saving a life, but the lives of those chickens are not worth anything. Mm-hmm. And it's just appalling. I mean, it's shocking. It's revolting. And again, I'm going to call this place tomorrow, and I'm going to ask them if in fact they did that. And, and then if they confirm that, I will probably write something about it. But it really is it's just remarkable. But this is this is the animal movement. This is the animal movement. And what's really sad is, it was a whole lot more progressive in the 80s than it is now. It's really gotten horrible. I mean, the animal movement is basically one big sellout. And they're all selling this. They're selling Singer. They're selling Singer. Reduce suffering. Reduce suffering. As long as you're reducing suffering, that's all that matters. So you reduce suffering. I mean, you go to the store. You go to the shelter rather. You adopt an animal. You reduce suffering. Well, you go to McDonald's and get a 10-piece chicken McNugget. Yeah,
At least it wasn't a 12-piece. Again, if it's a 10-piece is not 12-piece. You're reducing suffering by not getting the 12-piece chicken.
Well, that's right. But you're reducing suffering by saving the life of the animal whom you've just adopted. So so you're reducing suffering in that. But I mean, it's like there's no principled thinking here. It's completely principle-less, and that's the beauty of the sort of the utilitarian approach to animal ethics is basically anything that anybody does is okay because they could be doing it worse. And so they could be doing it, imposing more suffering. So if they're imposing less suffering, well, that's great. Let's step in the right direction. Baby step. Not going to change things overnight. Don't be a purist. Don't be a fundamentalist.
Be
and
corrupt.
It really
be corrupt. The whole thing is corrupted then.
It is. It is totally corrupt. And you have people who are making, who are doing well. Who are doing well in the business of animal ethics. You have these organizations that sell labels. They make money. They license those labels. They license. You don't get them for free. They license them. There are fees. And so people are making money off of this. And those are the people who are the animal people. They're the people who are supposedly protecting the interests of animals. It is appalling. It really is just appalling.
Josh Balk is doing very well, So the
well,
executive position at HSUS, egg salesman by day, and hero to the egg people by night by only using cows in his cookies. Jeez, amazing.
Right, and it is just remarkable, and I find it so very sad because obviously the folks who are involved with this, I'm sure think, I would imagine they think that they're doing right by the animals, but it's so hard for me to understand how they think because I don't really understand this at all. I don't understand it at all. But the one thing I can tell you is that I'm not buying any more Hampton Creek stuff. I don't trust the company anymore. I don't like the explanation I got from there that was posted supposedly from Tetrick. I assume it's from Tetrick. I didn't like the explanation. I didn't think it was. I thought it was a troubling explanation, and somewhat misleading in terms of this this food service company relationship, as if they weren't selling them. The answer is, of course, they're selling them, and they're not only selling them. I mean, Hampton Creek is not only selling them; they're on the Hampton Creek website. So, I mean, the idea that this is like some third party, that they're advising on, or that they're making some. The bottom line is, they're making this stuff. They're making it as just cookies. They're selling it. Apparently, they're not selling it to the public. But that raises a whole host of other problems. You have a company that purports to be a plant-based company saying, we sell plant-based stuff, we're really concerned, blah, 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 blah. But then they make non-vegan stuff, which they sell to third parties to resell to the public.
And,
I mean,
do they call it Just Cookies also? I mean, are they calling
well, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the thing. It says Just Cookies macadamia white chocolate cookie. When you put into Google Just Cookies macadamia white chocolate, you get a page from the Hampton Creek website.
See, and I thought they were
You know,
saying
with
just as in justice, because they have their just mayo. So it's like, just like justice mayo, right? So, but
well,
there's no justice in the cookie.
well, that's what I thought. I thought that's what just meant. There was, but like
Well,
just
maybe it's just
it was
it's just plain mayo. Here's a plain cookie. Just is either plain or justice, right? I mean, it's I thought it was like
it may mean only, and it may be that which partakes in justice. I don't know what the adjective means, but
it's just a cookie. What are you worried about? It's got a little dairy. It's just a cookie.
Right.
Now our mayonnaise,
Yeah.
now that's justice there because no dairy. Yeah, but no. Anyway, I never bought Hampton Creek anything. I love Vegenaise. I know the owner of Follow Your Heart, and he's in it for animals too, So Vegenaise is so much better than that, just mayo. It's just mayo. So
yes, well, I mean, it was disappointing to me. I'm really disappointed when I see that, and then when I see that sort of explanation. Well, we're just like, we're doing our best here. We're trying to alleviate suffering, and that just makes anything okay, anything and everything okay.
yeah.
And that's the problem.
Were they saying that they want to get the dairy out of the cookies though? But it's like
what he's saying. What he's saying is, let me go back.
Because they're known for putting on these shows for investors to come into the place that have, all sorts of bells and whistles that don't really apply to, what they're actually showing. But, they tend to, so they make it seem like they're so scientific and, they look like they're doing lab experiments. So it would be amazing if they couldn't get the dairy out of a cookie, since the health food store shelves are full of vegan cookies. Hard to believe.
We had to decide, this is from the statement which purports to be from Tetrick, we had to decide whether to remove the eggs while we began working on a new formula to eliminate dairy from the white chip, or leave them with the existing egg-based cookie. There was a trade-off, this was a trade-off, but allowed us to transition all other cookie flavors to be 100% plant-based immediately. Every day animal products are used is another day more animals suffer needlessly. We decided to move forward despite the imperfect solution. So
they're manufacturing cookies. Of course, we're talking about needless suffering.
Right, exactly. I don't think cookies are essential for human health,
right.
but it's this idea that they're making cookies which they sell to a food service company, but they're Hampton Creek cookies. And so Hampton Creek, think about this as a matter of reasoning.
If you bid on something to supply cookies for further distribution,
right,
and you identify yourself as a vegan or completely plant-based company, I think they do, they're vegan, right? Then the understanding is that you will only supply vegan items.
Right.
If you're a kosher company and you bid to supply the kosher meals on airlines through the airline distribution companies, if they're short on the bacon sandwiches one day, they don't come to the kosher company and say, can you fill in? They understand that there's a principle there behind the corporation.
But these are animal people. There's no principle.
Well, apparently,
Well, HSUS person, that really is not an animal person. So, and I understand all of that, but when it comes to the importance of a chip in a cookie, then we're asking a little bit too much, apparently. So,
well, that's the thing. It's like really pathetic when you have a supposed movement and people can't, people have to have their white chocolate in their macadamia nut cookie. And, my view is that, in that situation, you just have to, but again, this is the utilitarian argument.
Right. Perfect intersect between, movement not failing to take ideas seriously.
Right.
And the undercurrent of the being a utilitarian, let's reduce things, and any reduction is good. So heaven forbid, should anyone point something out in any sort of critical way that it shouldn't be being done in the name of a vegan or a plant-based company.
Right.
So
but it's almost not reduction in this case, because they're adding on a cookie that they didn't produce in the past. They don't have to produce, it's like, so it's not really reduction when you're adding on something.
They're supposedly a plant-based company. Somebody comes to them and says, we want you to make something that's got animal products, but less animal products. And you say, oh, okay, fine, we'll do that. Because it reduces suffering.
The world has gone mad. Yeah, that's
yeah. It has indeed. It has indeed. But this is the way it is. And so, I mean, and you made a comment before that I want to address for a second. When you said that Josh Bulk is not really an animal person because he's with HSUS. The sad thing is that if you look at the animal movement and you judge who's a member of the animal movement by the views of the people who self-identify as animal advocates, my guess is that most of them would say, yeah, he is an animal person, because this is what animal ethics has become. It's basically, these large corporate charities that promote animal exploitation, that actually promote animal exploitation, but supposedly, or promote supposedly